I'm a big fan of Avengers and the Avengers series of movies. And if you know them, you remember that at the end of Infinity War, when Thor throws his new weapon down and it hits Thanos in the chest, and Thor gets to him, Thanos says, "You should have gone for the head." Well, in this story, my canine Thor, he went for the head. Hi, I'm Gordon Carroll, author of the best-selling Gil Mason Sheepdogs mystery thriller series. And I want to thank you for joining me today as I relate some of my old police canine stories. And remember, like this video, comment, and subscribe. That's what keeps us going on here, so thanks so much. Tonight's story is about my third canine, Thor, who was just a rock star. He was probably my perfect dog. So obedient, he could cap himself, loving, and the most fierce creature on the planet. He was great. This story starts off with an armed robbery that happened in Greenwood Village. Their officers got into a pursuit with the people that had done the armed robbery. It was two men. And as they chased him around, these guys actually battered through a Greenwood Village car. They crashed into it, disabling it. And so they got away from them for a little bit. But then they found their vehicle shortly after that at an apartment complex. So this is about 1 in the morning. So they set up an inner perimeter and an outer perimeter. They called me in. I was working out in District 8, but I zoomed code 3, which means license siren, which we all like to do in police work. Got over to the scene as quick as I could. Saw that they had their perimeter established. Took a couple of cover officers with me. I took one of mine and one of theirs. So when you establish a perimeter like that, you have an inner perimeter, like I said, which is cars that are like as close as they can be as quick as they got in there. So if they got into the area very quickly, they make it very short, like the entrance and the exits to the apartment complex, maybe one inside, and maybe one to either side of that if we have enough manpower. Then you do an outer perimeter after that with helping agencies if you don't have enough cars. Now, like Denver and Aurora, they have, hundreds of cars. They can just make a perimeter so tight it's incredible. For the counties and just small cities, you don't have that many cars, so you have to call in the cavalry to come in and help out. So then you set up the outer perimeter, which is maybe a block away, depending on the time frame of how long it took for your first cars to get into the area. So your idea is you're hoping to have sealed the suspect into the inner perimeter area where you can find them very quickly. And if that didn't work and they got outside of that, they're contained by the outer perimeter that's far enough out to where they haven't been able to get past that point yet. So once I got there, I teamed up, found out what had happened about the robbery and what the charges were, because Canine can only be utilized for certain crimes. They usually have to be very serious misdemeanor or felony crimes, usually person crimes, sometimes property, if the right circumstances are there. And the reason for that is that when your canine finds the bad guy, there is a potential of the bad guy getting bit and injured. So you're using a little higher use of force, or at least the potential of a higher use of force. Ideally, canines their main purpose is as a locating tool. So either you're locating narcotics, bombs, bodies, bad guys, but that's what you're doing. You're locating something. They turn into a weapon if need be, dependent upon the suspect's behavior. If the suspect decides to attack or try to flee after you've already caught them, or refuses orders when you're giving them to them, at that point in time, you may deem it necessary to utilize your canine as a weapon. So what we do is there's 3 types of usages for canine in that case. It's hold and bark, that's the kind of general term for it, also called detaining dogs. There's find and bite, and then there is handler controlled. Now at our agency, in the early days when I first started, we did find and bite. Then we moved to detaining dogs. And then finally, because of the data that we found, where you actually had less injury to suspects if we went to this third method, and we did, which is handler controlled. So basically, this is the way it breaks down. A hold and bark dog, or a detaining dog, is trained to go up to the suspect, find the suspect where he's at. Let's say he's hiding in the corner of a room. And once they find him there, they just sit and they start barking. They don't engage the suspect. They just keep them detained there. Unless the bad guy attempts to hurt the dog, hurt the handler, or flee. Also, there's an override command that we can always give the dogs to engage the suspect at any time, because dog doesn't know if the bad guy pulls out a gun and points it at them or at me. He doesn't know that that's a gun and that it's going to kill us. So they may not do anything at that point if he does it slow enough. But if I give an override command to attack, then he will instantly attack. Find and bite is exactly what it sounds like. The dog finds the bad guy and he bites him. Now the third one is called handler control. And I know that this will seem like it's the same as find and bite, but let me show you the extreme difference in it. The extreme difference is we, the handler, take the decision away from the dog as to whether he is going to sit there and bark or whether he's going to go in and bite. And instead, we make the decision before we send the dog or while we're involved in the search, the actual search. So for instance, once I release my dog, I will have first given announcements in almost every case, telling the suspect to surrender and to come out and what will happen if they don't. So I'll usually say, hey, this is Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, identify yourself and come out immediately, or a police-trained dog will be released and you will be bit. I make that announcement several times. We usually do it over a loudspeaker or PA system, or we scream it really loud various times throughout the search. So we're telling the bad guy, hey, we know you're out here. We're looking for you with a dog. Surrender now. That's the order. And if you don't, then the consequences of you refusing to obey my lawful order is that you will be bit. So now the onus is on that suspect. So once I send my dog out after that, my intent is that he will bite that bad guy, unless the bad guy surrenders at some point in time, yells out at any of those kinds of times, or even holds his hands up or anything like that. At any point in that procedure, I can call the dog off and have him come back to me without the bad guy sustaining any injury. So that's me making the decision versus the dog making the decision. In this case, we were doing handler control. So I made my announcements. I had 2 cover offers with me. We knew that the bad guy was supposed to be armed, or at least one of them. There were 2. One had taken off from the passenger side, one had taken off from the driver's side because both of their doors were open. Now they could have met someplace and taken and gone together, but I did a casting. I first find out from the Greenwood Village officers, hey, where did you guys look around? How far did you go? They show me their last places. Once they do that, I cast the dog around in a circle. I cast the dog around in a circle around the car outside of that area where they had looked around. And I tried to pick up a track. My dog immediately picked up a track, and this was Thor, and started going southwest. Now, I was going for the driver. And the reason I was going for the driver is because the driver, we can always hold accountable. Passengers sometimes will claim that they were victims, they were kidnapped, whatever. We knew that both of these 2 were involved, but we still go after the driver first, especially since he crashed into a police car, tried to hurt the guy. And it was also going towards this apartment complex, so I figured the greater danger to the public was in that area. So Thor hits on a track beyond where deputies or officers have been, and he takes off. So me and these other 2 guys were going, and we go up some stairs to an apartment. He comes back down. He goes across a parking lot, goes up some other stairs, comes down, goes over to a car, sniffs under the car. So to me, that's telling me this. The guy has run up these stairs, back down, run over, because my dog is actually tracking. And on a track, the dog's not just looking for fresh human scent like on an area search. He's looking for ground disturbance and fresh human scent. So what happens is when you step on anything, grass is a great example. When you step on grass, it crushes the grass blades, it disturbs the dirt, it moves rocks, it kills bugs. Bits of the chlorophyll, I call it the grass's blood, comes out, and we can't smell it, but you can kind of think of it like this. If you go out on a Sunday morning and everybody's just mowed their lawns, and you smell that rich chlorophyll, that green smell that comes to you, that's what it's like for a dog, but on a microscopic level. They can smell it that small of an amount. We can't, but they can. So they pick up that odor exactly where the bad guy has stepped. Even on asphalt and even on concrete. It doesn't last as long on asphalt and concrete, and it makes it more difficult, but we train our dogs to sniff right along that kind of a trail. So he'd gone up some stairs, down some stairs, across the parking lot, up some more stairs, down some more stairs, hidden under a car, and then taken off. We keep going around, and all of a sudden he starts dragging me like hard. So when a dog gets into odor, that means he's not just tracking anymore, but now he actually smells the bad guy. His behavior changes. You see his body posture go down, his ears go back. He starts dragging on the leash even harder and harder, and he's just dragging me along. And as he's dragging me along, I'm telling my cover officers, hey, this guy's here somewhere, get ready, because if this guy wants to take me out and shoot me, we're points, so my dog and I are the first targets that will usually be hit. Well, as we get further across the parking lot, and of course, remember, it's almost pitch black out, except for a couple of lights here and there, I see a Greenwood Village car parked there, and there's a female officer in the car. So she's part of the inner perimeter. Now, I don't know where all the inner perimeter cars are, but she's there. And so I'm thinking, oh, rats. The dog is smelling her in the car, and he's going towards her. Now, we train our dogs not to go after cops and all, but human sin is human sin. He doesn't know this bad guy from the officer. So he could easily be going just for her. So I'm like, ah! I'm thinking that, I was all excited because I thought we were about to get the bad guy, and it's probably her. But he goes right past her car, maybe 8 feet past her car, and there's a hedge of bushes by a garage, and he dives into there. And I hear, ah! And he drags this guy out by his head. He's got his head, and Thor's mouth was not that big. He's not a shepherd, he's a Belgian Malinois, he's about 55 pounds. So for him to get his jaws around this guy's head was pretty impressive. And he was a skinned head, he had his hair all shaved down, and tats and swastikas and everything all around him. So he grabs him by the head, and he just drags him out to me from the bushes. And the guy jerks up, and as he does that, Thor loses his grip on the skull, lets go, and then bam, hits him right in the middle of the spine and just brings him right out to me. And I see right next to him when his head jerked, there's a .45 caliber right there. And it's cocked, and it's loaded, and he was ready to go. So Thor, grabbing him by the head, distracting him, making a distraction for us, probably kept us from getting in a gunfight, not to mention he was behind the officer, and he could have shot her in the head at any time. No fault of hers. She just came in on the inner perimeter and set up. In fact, her car getting where she got kept him hidden right there because he was afraid to be seen. So he just stayed there and didn't move. So, but she was in a dangerous position, as were the three of us, actually the four of us because of my dog, as we came up to him. But in any case, we got him all done. He had a little vial of methamphetamine on a necklace that he wore, kind of a chain, really, not a necklace, but he had that there. So we get him. He's screaming and crying because he's got his head slightly, lacerated, and really wasn't that bad. I mean, the puncture wounds were painful, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, for dog bites, it wasn't that bad, especially for a head bite. Back was not too bad either, because when you try to bite on a thin guy, meth heads are usually not too fat usually, and this guy was pretty lean, kind of muscular, but he got him right in the middle of the shoulder blades, and he had to go through a jacket and a shirt. And so really he just kind of scraped his skin and had a good hook in and pulled him out. So anyways, I turn him over to the Greenwood guys, have them take him out. We go back to the car, I do another casting over by the passenger side door, and bam, he hits again. So off we go. And this time I only had one deputy with me because there was nobody else to spare, because they had to take the guy to the ambulance, they had to secure the scene, they had to check for any other stuff that was there, like the cash and stuff like that. It turned out all that was in the car, but we didn't know that at the time. So I only had one deputy with me this time. This guy also could be armed, so we're being pretty careful. This guy was, I think he was a sergeant at the time, later became a lieutenant, but he's a great guy. He was on a lot of canine finds with me, great cover officer, and funny as could be. But and he's from New York, so it made it even better just because of that accent and everything. So anyways, we go around and we go about 2 complexes over, and as we're coming around, as a canine handler, if you have your dog on a leash, we call it a lead often, but a leash, same thing. And on this one, it was a 15-foot because I want him to have enough distance to where he can feel free to look around and sniff around and not have to be pulling me the whole time. And also, where I still have control on him. If a little kid were to run out or somebody innocent is there, I can stop him from getting them. So we're going around, and all of a sudden we start going around this corner. We're going up by a car near a carport, and there's a whole bunch of cars there. And as he's pulling, I can feel him starting to pull harder, and it was just like last time. So I was pretty sure the suspect was right around this car someplace. So I said to my cover officer, I said, okay, I think he's right over here. So I stopped him right there, and I said, suspect, I know you're up there. I'm going to let this dog go because I don't want to get shot if I came around the corner. I said, so I'm going to let this dog go, and he's going to tear you to pieces unless you surrender right now. Well, he had heard his buddy screaming and yelling and everything else, so he just put his hands up and says, I surrender, I surrender. He gave up. So we got him without getting hurt. So after that, I had to go down to the hospital and take pictures and talk to the first suspect. So he's sitting there getting treated by the nurse, and he looks at me and he's like really, really mad. He's like, so you just let your dog bite people in the head? And I said, well, if they're armed robbers that run from the police and crash into a police car and then don't come out and are sitting behind another officer with a gun ready to kill them, yeah, I do. And he didn't have anything to say after that, so it went pretty good. Those are the kind of stories that you get in Canine. They're fun, exciting, and we get some bad guys off the street, especially with the help of our canine friends who do things that we could never hope to do. So thanks so much for joining, and if you like the stories, please join me on other episodes. Also, don't forget my books, best-selling author of the Sheepdog series, or Gil Mason's Sheepdog series, and feel free to read those. They're a lot of fun. So what I do a lot of times in my books is I put some of the real stories that happen, I just change them around a little bit, and they're involved in the actual mystery, thriller, suspense, and it's a lot of fun. So please join us there. Thanks.